All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming to our first on-track session of the year. My name is Zach Prine. I'm an academic advisor here at Pulaski Technical College. So for this first session, we're going to talk about a lot of academic myths. We want to actually do some academic myth busting today. There's a lot of things that you probably have heard about Pulaski Tech, a lot of common rumors and things that people just believe to be true. And so we want to kind of dispel some of those things and just point you in the right direction about the information. So again, welcome. Thanks for coming to On Track. We'll be doing On Track things throughout the semester. So if you want to keep coming by, you can use one of these right here. We have them available at the Advising Center to keep you up to date with all the different On Track information. So, for starters, we'll go with kind of an easy one. There's a common myth that T and R stands for Thursday when you look at them together. In fact, this is false. T and R stands for both Tuesday and Thursday. Since T for Tuesday, TR for Thursday, we can't use the two letters, we actually just use the R for Thursday. So that's a really big one. A lot of times students think that they just have a one-day-a-week class. I know it may sound crazy to you, but if you're new to Pulaski Tech, if you're new to college, that might be a little bit of information you don't understand. Things Monday, T's Tuesday, W Wednesday, R Thursday, F Friday, S Saturday. We don't have classes on Sunday. And so your schedule is going to abbreviate everything to a one letter for the day. That's kind of a good one to start out with. Okay, kind of amping up the difficulty as far as questions go. Myth, I can take all easy classes. We get this a lot. People want to take all the easy classes. False. Easy and hard are relative to the student's preparedness and how far they are into their courses. One person's easy may be another person's hard, so it's really hard to determine just what the easiest classes are. Think about where you are in your reading, writing, and math classes. Think about your computer abilities. Think about all those sort of things to determine what's best for you. Students should really strive for a balanced schedule. And it's important to think about this because a lot of times students stack their schedule so it is only like maybe literature type classes, language type classes, and they're not addressing math or other things like that. So you want to give it a good variety. It's almost like a good meal. You want it to be balanced. You want to be a lot of different components to that. So by putting off what students may think is hard classes until the end, students are making their later schedules difficult. And I do see this a lot, unfortunately. Students have postponed their lab science classes, their college algebra classes, and their literature classes, and they end up taking all four of those classes at the same time. That's going to be kind of a difficult schedule to balance all of those things. Why not take bits and pieces of those and do them over a long period of time? You want to mix them with your personal easy classes. So something may come very naturally to you. You may be a math person. Math might be one of those things that you love. So dive into that stuff. Then take that English class with it because you know one thing's going to be a bit easier for you and another will be harder for you. But again, everybody's got their own hard and easy. It's good to talk to your advisors about what is maybe the most balanced schedule you can get because you do want to meet all those degree requirements. It's very important. A helpful tip is to take your developmental classes first. If you have any developmental classes, that's your first priority. Just address those, get that material down, and then move on to the next step. Myth. English Comp Fundamentals is the only prereq for English Composition 1. This is it depends. This all depends on where you tested into as far as your compass scores go. So there's technically two prereqs for English Comp 1. Both English Comp Fundamentals and College Reading, or to have made the appropriate test scores to test out. However, maybe you only test out of one of those sections, you still might have to take College Reading. So we do look at those test scores. If you completed maybe all of one developmental track but tested into reading classes, you'll need to also complete those as well. There's two tracks to get into Comp 1. Look at your developmental course chart. We have given a lot of handouts during orientation and transfer student registration. So please look at that and kind of see where you place in that tree. If you complete English Comp Fundamentals, your passing grade has posted, and you still can't get into Comp 1, check your reading scores. That tends to be a really common thing that shows up. Students come to the Advising Center, I can't get into Composition 1. Why is that? Well, there's still some reading that you need to complete. Myth. Classes like history and psychology do not have prereqs. Now this is going to be a little bit of a tricky one. Technically, this is true, but there's some fine print to this whole statement. History, psychology, sociology, interdividual arts, music theater, They don't have a mandatory prerequisite requirement, but you can see that little ... They do have a recommended prerequisite. The recommended prerequisite is English Composition 1. Instructors in these classes expect a student to be proficient in college writing. So when you're going into these classes, because they have that recommended prerequisite, they're expecting that level of work. And so that's why we always stress completing those developmental classes first, so that you will be prepared when you move on to these sorts of classes. So again, expect a class that wants a Comp 1 level of quality when it comes to the writing. A lot of these classes, students think that they're kind of easier classes. Well, that's not true. In history, psychology, sociology, and all the intro to arts classes, there's a lot of reading and writing associated with those classes. So be ready for that type of difficulty or this kind of challenge. Myth: computer concepts will help me type faster. A lot of times people want to get their typing speed up, which is a good thing. Mostly false. Now, I'll give you the reasons why this is mostly false. The main focus of computer concepts is not necessarily typing. More experience with computers is always helpful just in learning about how to work with computers and things like that. But if you really want to increase your typing speed, take a keyboarding class. We have a few keyboarding classes that you want to take to get the actual typing speed up. Keyboarding classes are designed to get you to type faster, not just hunt and peck your papers, and that can really provide a great outlet to get that information. So I really do recommend taking keyboarding classes. Keyboarding ability is always useful in college. It will never not be helpful to be able to type fast. So please keep that in mind when you're writing papers and things like that. You don't want to take 3 hours just to find stuff on the keyboard. So take these classes to build that foundation so you can type a lot faster. Computer concepts, it is helpful to teach students about different aspects of the computer. They're going to go into stuff about the hardware, the software, how computers work. You will type, of course, but the focus is not necessarily to get that words per minute speed up. Myth: I can take all of my classes at West Campus to graduate. And this is a tricky one. False. Why is it false? You can take most general education classes at West Campus. So you would be able to take like your composition classes, your developmental classes, some history classes, psychologies, all that good stuff. However, West Campus doesn't have computer concepts or science labs, so there is just some structural limitations there, so you would want to come to South or Main Campus to take those classes in order to meet all your degree requirements, say you get like an Associate of Arts or an Associate of Science. Many programs are also specific to Main or South Campus, and so all their facilities are really housed in one particular campus. Be sure to research what type of classes you will be taking long term. And that's why it's important to talk with advisors. Look at your degree plans, kind of get an idea about what you will be studying long term, because that could impact what location you have to go to. Myth: I should wait until the end of the semester to schedule my next classes. Now I say this is mostly false. Some classes you will have to wait for prerequisite grades to post. You just have to complete one class before the other class. But there's many classes that you may not have to complete the prerequisites for. You just be eligible based on test scores, or there's no prerequisites or things like that. So if you don't have a prereq, or you've already met your prereq, go ahead and add the class when registration opens. Go ahead and get the jump on getting a good schedule. It's always important to make the best schedule you can make as soon as possible. And so think about those sorts of things when you're trying to plan out that entire next semester. Grab the classes that you're eligible for now, and then build around the time that you can use to get those prerequisite classes completed, and then get those classes added next. Another myth: I can get all my classes after the drop. This is false. There's no guarantee the classes you need will be open after any drop for non-payment. That is not a guaranteed thing. We hear this a lot from students. I'll just wait till after the drop to get my class. No. There's no perfect science to that. So don't think that you can just wait until people get dropped. We don't know. Maybe no one gets dropped. This is not like a set thing that might happen. Spots may not open in the classes you need, and that's why it's important to get those classes early. Anyone who's gone through orientation has probably heard Ryan talk about competing for those classes. He says that he would get classes before anybody else would because he'd be there on day one to get those classes. And I recommend that for everyone here too. Get the classes that you can grab as soon as possible. You want your best schedule. Registering sooner is always better. Either register on day one of registration or when your grades post. As soon as those post, please register early. Myth: I have to have 12 hours to get financial aid. We hear this one a lot. The magic number people think is 12 hours. This is probably false. Now I say probably because you all might have different financial aid sources. Different agencies, different things might be funding your attendance here at Pulaski Tech. So you need to really do that research. It does depend on your type of financial aid. So technically a student would need like 6 hours to be eligible for loans. So think about that. Well, that's a lot different number than 12. Some forms of aid require 12 hours. Maybe you're getting a particular veteran's benefit. And so that's what you have to maintain to get that. Maybe you're doing the Arkansas Academic Challenge. Again, each financial aid source, because there are a lot of different types of financial aid, it's not just one thing. Most people fill out the FAFSA, but again, some people may be going through the Veterans Administration. Some people may be getting the Arkansas Academic Challenge. And so you want to look at all the different options and really research your type of financial aid. So again, the Arkansas Academic Challenge depends. It usually requires 12 to 15 hours to receive that. You've got to keep track of the attempts that you take in classes. This is a really big one. Nowadays, we have to focus on how many times the students try to take a class, because that does impact financial aid as well. You have to think about how much financial aid you're eligible for ever. And so factor that in. Should you just take an extra class for the sake of taking that class, or should you wait until the right time to take that class? I'd always recommend on taking the class at the right time. Don't burn those hours. And really, I do suggest talking to financial aid. I suggest researching your financial aid, meeting with a financial aid advisor early. Do this homework. It's really important because this is one of the main reasons we all can go to school. And so factor that into your overall semester plan, how you're going to work for your financial aid, what requirements you need, how you're going to maintain those requirements. And it's very unique to everyone here. So you all have your own specific way that you have to keep that financial aid. So please research that and do that. Again, always if you have questions, check with financial aid. Talk to them early, talk to them often. Make sure you understand everything about your financial aid when you visit them. Myth: I should take a break or wait to take my math classes. Math is just one of those things that people tend to fear and not want to address. Well, let's find out about this one. 100% false. Please, please don't wait to take math. Math does tend to be a subject that many of us shy away from, but it's important to address math classes. Complete your math classes ASAP, just like any other classes you may have. Maybe you have some developmental math classes. Make those your top priority. Get those done. Math is something that needs to be continued immediately. It all builds on previous material. So if you've completed pre-algebra skills, you'll want to move on to elementary algebra, move on to intermediate algebra, move on to college algebra. Keep that knowledge fresh. Don't take the time to potentially forget something. Waiting to take math is essentially delaying your degree completion. And unfortunately, I see this a lot too. Students postpone taking math out of fear or apprehension to get into math. And that's just extending time here at Pulaski Tech. Of course, we love having you here, but we want you also to complete your degree. We want you to do well. And so to be able to take your math classes early is really important. So please keep that on your plate. And of course, make math part of your balanced schedule. Build that math class into every semester. Myth: advisors are here to schedule my classes. Now this is a fun one. False. Okay, well wait a minute. Well, let's go into a little bit more detail about some differences in vocabulary. Advisors are here to help you plan which classes to take in order to graduate, not when you take those classes. PDC offers many options, but how you take your classes is really up to you. That's a really important thing to kind of think about. When should I take my classes? I don't know necessarily what's best for everybody as far as their schedule goes. You have work, you have different life expectations, and so think about what's best for you on that. Now, as far as the advising end goes, we are concerned about which classes you're taking in order to meet those degree requirements. We definitely want you to meet all of your degree requirements. But there's some tips you can do when you're planning your schedule. Write down when you're not available. Think about the times that you absolutely cannot take class. Note multiple times for the same class. It's always good to kind of go through the schedule of classes and see what are some potential times I could take this class. Look at the long term. Will this schedule work for me 4 months from now, at the end of the semester? And then think about scheduling like a puzzle, but you're the one that knows how those pieces fit. It's just really important that students build their best schedule. A lot of times I think They see advisors, want to register them. And obviously we do a lot of that just because we see the schedule so much and we work with a lot of new students. But as far as current students go, it is your responsibility to register for your own classes and to schedule your own classes as well. But of course, we do want you to make sure you're taking the right classes. And we want to talk about with you which classes you're taking. That's really important. Myth: online classes are easier. False. Online classes are different because of the format. But the content is the same, so they're not necessarily easier. I think a lot of people have the misconception that because it's online, less is going to be expected of a student, and that's not true. Some students prefer online classes and some do not, and that's good. That's a matter of learning preferences and things like that. And it's good that students are observant about what works best for them and their life schedule and things like that. But online classes still require regular attendance and have assignments to make sure students are engaged in learning. So it's really important to note that there are still going to be high expectations for students taking online classes. It's not just a matter of signing up for a class and then occasionally checking back in. There's going to be regular work, just like for coming in class. Myth: filling out the FAFSA completes my financial aid. We hear this one a lot. We're not necessarily financial aid experts, but we do want you to go talk to financial aid about these things, of course. Now for this one, this is false. And for those of you who went through orientation, you probably remember a little bit about this. Filling out the FAFSA starts your financial aid process. So you've really just begun that process once you've filled out the FAFSA. There are other steps. These are things like it takes 4 to 6 weeks to process your financial aid from the point that you fill out that FAFSA. 1 in 3 students may get picked for verification, which extends that time as well. You might actually return some documents. Financial aid may request that you bring back some sort of data sheet or things like that. So please return those document requests as soon as possible. Now the absolute last step, when you're completely done with your financial aid, you'll have signed your online award letter. And you can find that completed letter in your PTC portal. Now there's a little blue link that will let you sign it. So when everything's done, this is the last step that says, yes, I would like to receive that fund. Please give it to Pulaski Tech so I can pay for my classes. And that would finish the process. So that's kind of a lot longer than initially just filling out the FAFSA. So the earlier you can go ahead and fill out the FAFSA, the better. If it's tax time, it's FAFSA time. So as soon as you complete your taxes, go ahead and start registering for that FAFSA. And you would have to do that every year. The FAFSA is something that you do have to do yearly. So whenever year the tax season comes around, go ahead and fill out the FAFSA. Okay, myth, and this one's close to my heart. Myth: academic advising can answer all of my questions. And I capitalize all because this is all as in anything related to Pulaski Tech. Believe it or not, it is false. We do know an awful lot, but we still don't know everything. Academic advisors know a lot about classes, degrees, and PTC in general. There are subjects that we don't actually cover, though. Number one being financial aid. We're not financial aid experts. We can't give you a lot of just general advice, but when you really want to get that information, talk to financial aid. The business office. Say you owe money for a parking ticket or things like that. We don't have access to that information either. The bookstore. I don't know a lot about the bookstore. I know where it is. But anything else related to that would be through them. Receiving documents, like say you're applying to Pulaski Tech and you need to turn in some transcripts or ACT scores or things like that, that would actually be something that's not what we would do, but you actually take that to admissions so they can properly process it. Computer troubleshooting, say you're having issues with a Blackboard class, we wouldn't do that either. That would be actually the IT help desk, so we would be able to point you in the right direction at least. Blackboard again. Some departmental issues you may be having with like an instructor or the way a class is going, a lot of that would be done at the departmental level. And so you want to talk to your instructor, you want to talk to their chair, people like that. We'll always gladly provide you with contact information, so should you not know the number to somewhere or not know where to find something, of course, come ask us. We will be able to help you. That's the main goal. Does anyone have any other myths that they'd like to address? If you don't have any other myths, that's okay. There's always an opportunity to dispel myths by talking to an academic advisor. So if you do have questions, please come by and visit us. We're at all 3 campuses, at Main Campus, at West Campus, and at South Campus. Please stay on track. Each week we'll have a new on-track session, so you can tune in, come by, siblings listen about on-track. Sign up on your PTC portal under the Students tab. You can actually register for your on-track session. You can also follow us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/PTC Advising. We have a lot of good information on there. And then follow us on Twitter @PTC Advising, again, for more good information. Anyway, that was On Track. Thank you all very much.